Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning, and we'll get started on this agenda. Looking over it this morning, and it's a little after 8. Have a closed session this morning, by the way, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, so we can get through this and go right into a closed session if that's what the commissioners would like to do. We've started out with Mr. John Bell. Commissioner Bell, would you have the invocation and the pledge, please?
My pastor's gonna come and do it for Stephanie Hart, Stephanie Bell Hart.
Stephanie Bell Hart.
Mm-hmm.
And what church is that?
What church?
Mount Zion.
Mount Zion.
Yeah, Christian.
Okay, I'll let you introduce Pastor Hart. Pledge of Allegiance, John?
Okay.
Approval of the minutes. We have 4 of those. Discussion, adjustment of the agenda. Ms. Smith, do you have anything?
I don't think
Adjustments?
any additions at this time, no, sir.
We were having, I had a message that we were having Daniel Wiggins come and talk about the county flash food drive. At 9:45.
Okay, let's do that. The Wayne County Food Pantry or Food Drive, is that what that is?
Flash food drive. for
Flash
county
food.
employees.
At 9:45? Okay, right before the public comment time. Okay, appointment committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're set. Yeah, we have
Okay.
appointments.
Committee reports by commissioners, unfinished business, the resolution for the hospital, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Literacy Connections, Wayne County funding update.
Yes.
Who will be here for that? Anyone? You got any-
I think it's just going to be staff because they had some classes and something this morning, so it would just be myself and commissioner comments.
Okay,
Because I do have some information from the city last night.
all right. Any other unfinished business? Do you have anything?
No, sir.
New business? Wayne County Public Library policies,
And Donna will be here.
Donna Phillips. Budget amendments,
Yes, sir. Ms. Holt's on vacation, but I have those with all the detail and backup, so I'll be covering those.
okay. Comprehensive land use plan,
Yes, sir. Connie Price is here. We'll be giving you an update on our timeline for getting that
Mr. Price.
started.
public comments at 10. Let's just, it's not a business item, that's just for information only on Mr. Wiggins.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll just bring that right up under Mr. Price's report just prior to the public comments. Closed session.
Mr. Chairman, what was that Wiggins matter?
The Wiggins, Mr. Wiggins is an employee of the county, and they're doing a flash food pantry drive or flash
Food drive. It's a community food drive. He was just giving an update on what we're doing.
Okay.
So it seems to be going pretty well.
Closed session. We will have a closed session over at WCDA, hopefully at 11 o'clock. Board of Commissioners information. Short day today. Not a whole lot so far. Any comments from commissioners on the agenda?
It's the.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bell.
Noel's gonna mention how the jail thing is going with the
You want to do that under
The
committee
RFQ.
reports, please?
yeah. Whenever you wanted to.
You're going to do that under number 2?
Yes, sir, under reports.
Okay.
Board of Commissioner committee reports, and when I call on you, Mr. Bell, and that's your committee, and you want to have somebody to handle that for you?
Yeah, she's gonna let us know.
Which one? Who's going to do that?
Noel.
Noel.
Noel? Okay. Sounds good. Anything else? Do we have, we do have a request,
report, are you?
sir?
Mm.
We do have a request for a closed session this morning. The attorneys asked for that, and
So we're gonna go home.
Parker.
It would be to consider the performance of a public employee, to discuss the location or expansion of businesses, and to consult with an attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to go into closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Motion to go into closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. We're going to closed session. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this morning, and welcome to the Commissioners' meeting. It's a beautiful morning outside, and we are thankful that WGBR is carrying us on radio, and also we're being streamed live as we speak right now, and with the audio and video. So, Commissioners, your mics are hot, and ask you to get them close when you speak, so those not only listening by radio but watching us on the internet can understand what we're saying this morning. But thank you so much for being here. We'd like to start the morning, as always. Commissioner Bell, would you have our invocation? But I believe we have a special guest in the room this morning.
Yes, we have the pleasure of having my pastor here this morning. Her name is Stephanie Bell Hart, and she's also my daughter-in-law. So if she would step up to the mic, and she was going to sing for us a little bit too, but she told me she had a cold, so
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to say good morning to our chairman and the entire board, amen, of commissioners. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this morning rise. We thank you for life, health, and strength. And as uniquely different and diverse as we are individually today, we come together collectively in unity to administrate the affairs of this city with wisdom. Father, I pray protection for every leader, their families, their staff. I pray for prosperity of spirit, mind, and body. Continue to give them peace and the ability to fulfill their purposes that you have planned for them. And may they have continued passion for justice and righteousness within them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Mr. Bell?
May we stand, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, we'll have her to come back one day and sing for us.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. Look forward to that. General Statute 138 Alpha-15 mandates that the chairman inquire as to whether any member knows of any known conflict or interest or appearance of conflict with respect to the matters before this commission today. If any member knows of a conflict of interest or even an appearance of a conflict, please state so at this time. Thank you. The approval of the minutes, that's an action item. What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Motion's on the floor. We approve the minutes. That will be for October the 8th, October 11th, October the 15th, and October the 25th. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, thank you. Mr. Smith, the discussion this morning, adjustments of the agenda. Are there any additions or adjustments?
The only one is, as discussed in the briefing, would be we do have an update on the flash food drive. So we'll have a county employee to come up, Mr. Daniel Wiggins, to talk about that, I think, just before public comments. You'll have that today. Other than that, I think everything's on schedule as documented.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Under reports, Mr. Mayo, the appointment committee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If you would turn in your agenda book to about middle way, you will see the first yellow highlighted area, the Fremont Board of Adjustment. I'd like to recommend and make a motion from the appointment committee, which includes myself and Commissioner John Bell and Commissioner Bill Pate, that we reappoint Mal R. Reed Jr. to the Fremont Board of Adjustment, and I make that in form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's on the floor that we reappoint Mal Reed Jr. to the Fremont Board of Adjustments. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you.
If you would turn the page to the Mount Olive Board of Adjustment, we have a reappointment this morning of Janice Armstrong, and I make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is on the floor to reappoint Janice Armstrong to the Mount Olive Board of Adjustment. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you. That's unanimous.
The next one is the Wayne County Animal Control Advisory Committee. Today, we have one reappointment. That's Dr. George R. Silver, and I make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is on the floor to reappoint Dr. George R. Silver to the Wayne County Animal Control Advisory Committee. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you. It's unanimous.
The next item is the Wayne County Latino Council, reappointment of Christine Smith to this council, and I make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is on the floor to reappoint Christine Smith to the Wayne County Latino Council. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you.
Okay, at the bottom of your page, you'll see the Wayne Health Corporation Board of Directors. These are reappointments, David M. Perry, Ray McDonald Jr., and Christopher Griffin, M.D. These are three reappointments that I make in the form of a motion we accept, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is on the floor that we reappoint Mr. David Perry, Mr. Ray McDonald Jr., and Dr. Christopher Griffin to the Wayne County Corporation Board of Directors. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you.
That's all the appointments for today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Good appointments. Thank you so much for the board, from the board to you fellows sitting on the appointment committee. It's a good job, well done. Board of Commissioners Committee Reports. Mr. Cromartie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last meeting, I had an opportunity to attend the wages board meeting on the 17th. They are continuing to be very active throughout the community, and I just specifically remember one lady talking about the work and effort that they had made to explain a variety of things like the Affordable Health Care Act and so forth to the community as part of an ongoing relationship with the community, so they're doing a fantastic job. Also had an opportunity to attend the library committee. Ms. Phillips is here with some things that she'll present to you a little later on that was discussed in our meeting, but she will take care of that. And with great pleasure, I'd also like to announce that along with the rest of the group, going to the State of the Military function and being part of that, and a follow-up to the military affairs that was held out of Walnut Creek. I just see those things as our ongoing effort to be highly involved with Seymour Johnson in great support of it, and for all the listening public, that has a very important function that we all take very serious to be in support of and to attend those things as it relates to our military partners. Also, I had an opportunity to visit with the, just to support my seatmate here, Mr. Pate, at the Veterans Advisory Group, and I found that very interesting. That's a very committed group of people to the life of veterans. I just have to put it like that. They are very committed to the good life of veterans. I'll go even to say that. So those are just some of the things that I'd like to report on for my office. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cromartie. Mr. Pate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Had a number of meetings during the month, and I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. We had a Highway 70 corridor meeting on Thursday the 17th, and actually that was a very quick meeting. However, there was a bit of confusion on the fees for the municipalities, but thanks to Marshall, who went back into the notes, we had already passed a level of $10,000 for them, and so I had made a motion at the meeting, the executive committee take a look at that again, but once we found out that we had already voted on that, and I thought that we had, we decided, I think that's been decided, that's not going to happen. And both Commissioner Daugherty and Commissioner Mayo were there. I'm sure they can add some additional things to what I said. Was on WGBR on Wednesday the 23rd, and I got to talk about my two favorite subjects, agriculture and veterans. And I thought it went really well, thanks to Carol Bowden and for having me on. And as it turned out, she liked it well enough. She's asked me to come back and be on there at least once a month. So being on again on the 14th of this month with former Representative Efton Sager, and we'll be talking about veterans and the base and how that's all related to our local economy. So I look forward to doing that. Attended the State of the Military on the 23rd, and Commissioner Cromartie's already talked about that. Also on the 23rd, I attended the Literacy Connections meeting, and since that's on the agenda today, I'll save my comments for later for that. The Veterans Advisory Board, which is on the 24th, was a joint meeting with the Patriots Coalition. We did that together for a reason. For the most part, a lot of these veteran groups are the same people, and they work very hard together, but sometimes there's overlap out there, and certainly we want to try to eliminate the duplicated meetings. However, there'll be times when certainly those different groups will need to meet separately from the Veterans Advisory Board. But it does bring a large number of people together with a lot of great ideas of how to help veterans in our community. At that meeting, and I've already sent this to you guys, and it's been sent out, and you should have a copy of it. There are two very important things happening with veterans this month. On November 6th, there'll be a veteran stand down at the Wayne Center. They'll have Veterans Administration there, rural health outreach, homeless coordinators, readjustment counseling, benefits information, employment information, education, training, Social Security, food, clothing, and much more. Very important for those folks out there who need that kind of help, those veterans. So if you know a veteran that needs help in that area, have them there on November 6th from 10 to 3. On the 13th, there will be a Veterans Job Fair at the National Guard Armory from 10 to 1. We've got a lot of local companies that will be present, and I don't think they're going to restrict it just to veterans, but it's focused for veterans. So anybody knows a veteran needs a job, please have them come on over there. And next Monday, the 11th, remember there's a Veterans Parade. They're on Center Street here in Goldsboro, and it begins at 10:30, so don't miss that. On the 28th, the DSS Board. Still having issues with NC Fast, but that's improving. They've gone from like a month now to 2 weeks, which is good news for those folks who are trying to get their food stamps. There was a Title IV Adoption Assistance and Social Service Block Granting Monitoring Report on-site review, and they passed with flying colors, so there were no issues there. Went to the I-95-117 feasibility study at DOT last Tuesday. It was really interesting to be able to see the maps and visually see what the plan for the future is going to be. Now, it's going to take some time, but that plan is moving forward, and having that road all the way to 40 will be a tremendous asset to our economic engine of eastern North Carolina. Myself and Commissioner Mayo, we attended the East Carolina Workforce Banquet because I serve on that board. It was good to see a lot of old friends of mine because, I worked in the workforce field for 30 years. And a lot of those people, of course, a lot of them like me, they're retiring. And so some of them were not there. But one of our locals here, Fletcher Bazell, HR Director, or whatever his title is over there at Excel, received the Don Harris Award, which is the #1 award you can receive at this banquet for all the years of service he's put into workforce programs and all the other things that he does. And let's see, the leadership luncheon, we were out there last week on the 31st and got to hear some good dialogue from leaders in our community. And one thing that still kept coming up and was hammered on by especially one of our bankers was workforce preparedness and how we still got to fix that problem. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fate. Mr. Aycock?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the pleasure of, on October 26th, going to the 120th anniversary of the Oak Plain School at Charles B. Aycock birthplace. Got a chance to spend about an hour and a half there. Very informative. Learned some things I did not know about some of the history of Wayne County. The staff was very polite and cordial. Had several Boy Scout groups attending, and I couldn't stay for the whole presentation, but as I was leaving, there were still people coming in, so I was very, very proud of what the staff at the ACOT birthplace was doing that day. Also, I attended the State of the Military's function at Goldberg Country Club, and also the leadership conference last week. Like Mr. Pate said, very informative. Our four speakers did a great job. That's all I have today, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Acock.
Looks like Commissioner Pate's taking most of mine. But, no, that's fine. As you know, economic development, I'm on the board of the Eastern Region, and on October 16th, you know, we're converting over to a nonprofit, so the Eastern Region and the Eastern Region Alliance Corporation, we met back to back. So I'm on both boards at this time, but I don't need to go into a lot of detail because John Chafee gave the commissioners a presentation about the Eastern Region going to a nonprofit on October 15th, so we're all aware of that. I did go to the Highway 70 study focus at the WCDA on the 17th, and also to the Highway 70 Quarter Commission. Even though I'm not on those boards, I have two interchanges, and I have intersection at Walmart at 581 that's in my district, and that should be of interest to all us commissioners as to how the 70 bypass and the I-40 117 bypass to I-40, 795 to I-40 is going to have an effect on us. One of the business committees that I'm on, as you know, is facilities committee. On October 18th, the facilities committee met at the WCDA conference room, and at that time, Jackson Builders presented the board with final contract figures for the Steele Memorial Library, total $2,275,000. It was approved by the Facilities Committee, and on October 25th, it was presented to the Board of Commissioners in special session and was approved unanimously. On the 23rd, I attended also the Chamber of Commerce State of the Military at the Goldsboro Country Club. The Chamber of Commerce, by the way, does a great job. They really connect all parts of Wayne County, but especially the base. So I want to go to all these functions because our relationship with Seymour Johnson is critical to Wayne County and the surrounding area. On the 24th, there was a reception at Walnut Creek to honor the champions of House Bill 484, which was the windmill legislation, and which is so important to us here in Wayne County. As Commissioner Pate mentioned, I did attend the Workforce Development Award Banquet with him in New Bern. And have you ever been in a place with someone that they knew 100% of the people and you didn't know anybody? Well, this is how I felt, but I felt welcome because when I opened that booklet and I saw what workforce development is, all these people stood up that have been helped from, they may have been on drugs or whatever, and they've helped into a working person. They're educated. They're actually working and making their own way. That really touches your heart as to what's going on. So I'm certainly glad I went to that. October 31st has already been mentioned. The Commercial Leadership Conference and Luncheon at the Goldsboro Country Club. The panel that was there was Tom Bufkin, who was president of Franklin Bakery, and Dr. Sandra McCullen, who's assistant superintendent of Wayne County Schools, Gray Morgan, the CEO and chairman of the board of Southern Bank, and John Bell, the North Carolina House of Representatives. And they put on a panel discussion as to where we need to go, how we need to go, and how we can connect to move forward. That was very informative. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Mr. Daughtery?
This past month, I've attended the Highway 70 Corridor Commissioner meeting in Smithfield. At that time, we received updates on the status of Highway 70 bypass. It seems that all is on schedule for an opening in late 2015. I think we all need to be prepared for a loss of those thousands of vehicles that are going to be bypassing our county at that time. I'm pleased to hear that our county manager is in fact researching the availability of some funding through Eastern Region that may assist us in expanding our infrastructure, our water or sewer, even gas, possibly to those interchanges. The sooner we can get that infrastructure there, the sooner we can have development at those interchanges. The State of the Military program was presented by the Chamber and was extremely informative. I was also pleased to attend a reception along with several of my other commissioners honoring the champions of House Bill 484. Now that will bring protection to our military bases when building wind farms in North Carolina. And that was extremely important to get that bill passed. It really bodes well for our community to come together and actually get that bill passed in such a short period of time and was critical. There was a special call meeting of the hospital board, and we were all pleased to hear that Blue Cross and Wayne Memorial are back at the bargaining table. Hopefully they will finalize a new contract. I know that many in our community are stressed over that, and things do look a lot more positive today than they were just a few weeks ago. We're hopeful that all the parties will come to an agreement before the end of the month. And lastly, I attended a very informative I-795 concept review planning meeting in Raleigh. Now, it's very evident that we've got some major hurdles to overcome in extending I-795. Most of those hurdles involve crossing the Neuse River. Several options are being explored, including the upgrading of the existing Highway 117 corridor. There are many challenges as we deal with wetlands, floodways, floodplains, FEMA buyout properties, and commercial access points. We are hoping to get a great deal more details of that feasibility and the cost associated with each of the alternative routes by the spring of 2014. It is moving rapidly, but there are some major issues, and I think that's why they ended it where they did. But hopefully we do have the people in place that are willing to tackle those issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Daughtery. Mr. Bell?
I'm just going to mention a couple of things. I'm not going to duplicate some of the things that's already been said because some of us attend the same meetings. And if I do duplicate, I will hear it Sunday morning whenever a certain person get up to preach, so I won't go that way. I did attend the Eastern Region meeting. I won't talk about that because Mr. Bell already stated it. The Go Wayne Go is up and running, and we need people to participate. We want to lose £1 million, I think. Is it £1 million? Yeah, £1 million countywide. I've already lost mine, so I don't have to. And I talked to Senator Lewis Pate about the possibility of us getting the Wayne Correctional Center turned over to us to do a jail. And I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to ask Ms. Wood if she would come up and let us know where we stand on that. All of the legislative delegation from Wayne County are on board with that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here today, as Mr. Bell stated, to mention the progress of the request for qualification, needs assessment, and feasibility study for the Sheriff's Office and the Detention Center. We've been very busy the last couple of months. The advisory board met on September 25th to finalize the request for qualifications. On September 30th, the advisory board toured the Wayne Correctional Center. After working with the sheriff to compile a vendor base, the request for qualifications was sent out on October the 2nd. It was sent out to 15 firms. It was also publicly advertised on our website, as well as the News Argus, the Raleigh News and Observer, and the Charlotte News and Observer. I have fielded many phone calls from additional firms requesting the RFQ information. I have been working diligently with Mr. Bell, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Milford Smith, our facilities director, on answering all the questions these firms have submitted. To date, we have sent out 3 addendums for clarification to the RFQ and to answer questions from several firms. The deadline for submittals is tomorrow by 3 p.m. Once the qualification packages are opened, staff will review and possibly interview a shortlist. Once interviewed, staff will set a meeting with the advisory board to recommend a firm. Any questions?
Good job.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. This, as you know, I serve on the, as a district director on the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, and this past Friday and Saturday we met in New Bern and discussed the state and the goals that we have set for this 13-14 year. We also received information that I have asked the manager to put together for us this morning. If you look on this 2013 county map book that was passed out at our meeting, you'll see that the table of contents outlines the demographics of the state. It brings up the important matters, as Mr. Bill Pate, agriculture, the economic aspects of ag, education, environment, health and human services, and justice and public safety. The population estimate on page 1 gives you an example of how the state has grown over the past 10 years. And of course, when you look at the state map, the boot there, Wayne County, you can see how the logistics of regionalism and the concentrated effort on the median age and where Wayne County is, and the population under 18 on page 3. You have 25 to 30% total population of 123,000. Population over 65 on page 4. Compared to the counties around us, you'll see where Wayne County is at 10 to 15% of total population over 65. And then the population change. You know, we were at 2000, the census was 2013, and the 2010 census was right at 122,800. We grew about 9,800, but today they've got us at 123.7. And the building permits, all in all, and community college enrollment on page 12, showing Wayne County at between 11,400 and 17,400. But this information is entails just about everything you'd want to know about economics, logistics, and roads, self-supplied water systems, whether they be well water. It's a very detailed annual map that they put out as far as the just demographics in North Carolina, the map book. The other book that's really more important is the North Carolina Physical Summary. You do not have this, but this will be made today and given to you. I hope we can have it before the day end, if we can.
Well, we put them together, they can get them all copied.
All right.
Down, because she's working on them now.
But we, this brings the percentages, statistics for Wayne County. Shows you comparisons to every county in the state. It shows a percentage of increased fund balances. It shows the population growth and percentages. Just an analysis of available funds, the general funds, and it compares this analysis in property taxes compares to every other county in the state. So this is really, really good information for planning, in particular in budget times. The other item that I picked up Friday was the member benefits for Wayne County. And this is benefits for Wayne County. Debt set-off revenue for 13 was $459,000. Debt set-off revenue since inception, $3,756,000. Revenue generated by EMS enhancement program, $778,000. And Medicaid phase-out benefit for 13 was $2,650,000. But also this information will be, we're putting it together to give to you this morning. But the other thing is Mr. Pate has found is that being on a steering committee for the association is really the grassroots of understanding how a particular subject matter might be. In this case, agriculture. Commissioner Bill Pate serves as a member of the steering committee for the association on agriculture, along with about 18 other people throughout the state. And I wanted to give this to you, Mr. Pate, and also talking about one of the items on agriculture this past week was conversation with regional ag centers and exactly what the ag centers did, whether it was research or whether it was entertainment. So we had some good discussions this week on that, but I brought that to you. That's all I have on Commissioner committee reports. Thank you all for working as hard as you do and bringing those reports to us this morning. Unfinished business, Wayne Memorial Hospital Blue Cross Blue Shield resolution. Mr. Smith?
You do have, you do have in your agenda unfinished business, you do have the resolution that's been brought to you on page 1 and 2. And I'm sure you've had a chance to read that. You discussed it in your last meeting.
Mr. Smith, the direction, I guess, that was, or the information that we received through last night is that the resolutions have been signed by other municipalities.
It had been sent out to all the municipalities and the Board of Education. We received back how many? Nothing has been received.
Has the Board of Education, have they addressed this?
If they have, we have not been notified, but we sent it to everyone. We made sure they received it, and we have not been officially notified by the Board of Education or any municipality that they have dealt with the resolution. And if they've reported anything in the paper, whatever, we had asked for a copy of the resolution, and they have not notified us. And up till this morning, in fact, I just looked online again to see, no notification.
All right. Any discussion or any questions that the commissioners have on the resolution that's before you? We did ask that the resolution be set aside for 2 weeks to allow the Board of Education and all the municipalities to weigh in on the resolution. And so no one has responded. City of Goldsboro?
No, sir.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board with the resolution?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Daugherty?
I move immediate approval of the resolution.
Motion's on the floor that we approve the resolution. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. The next item of business is the Literacy Connection of Wayne County funding update. Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. I was notified last evening. We had asked the literacy folks to talk to municipalities, particularly the city of Goldsboro, in assisting on this $27,000 difference they had in their budget. And you as a board did allocate or appropriate $2,000 of that to assist to try and maintain a couple of grant positions through AmeriCorps. Last night, about 2 weeks ago, the city of Goldsboro did allocate $6,000, and last night an additional $6,000. So the city of Goldsboro has appropriated $12,000 for literacy. And we had said to the Literacy Connections, if they were able to get the city to do that, that we would consider additional funding. And so we did get notified officially last night unofficially, officially this morning, that they had allocated $12,000 from the city of Goldsboro.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor?
if Mr. Smith is correct, we were presented with a budget amendment a month or so ago for about $27,000 from the Literacy Connection. And I learned last night, as a matter of fact, I saw the meeting where the city of Goldsboro okayed and approved a second $6,000, which makes their total to $12,000. And I'd like to thank the city council for doing that, because we had asked the city to participate in this worthy cause, and they've done that. So if you take the $27,000 that was initially asked for, minus the $12,000 that the city has given, that leaves a balance of $15,000. But the Board of Commissioners approved $2,000 on September the 3rd as a short-term measure to help literacy. So if you deduct that $2,000, we're looking at a balance of $13,000. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we fund the Wayne County Literacy Connection in the amount of $13,000 for this fiscal year ending June 30th of 2014.
Motion's on the floor that we allocate $13,000 to the Literacy Connection for this year. To take it until June 30, 2014.
This is additional funding.
This is an additional
above
funding of
original
$13,000.
appropriation.
Any discussion? Mr. Pate.
I attended the Literacy Connections board meeting last week and asked for some time to talk about this particular issue with them. I told them I was going to support this because it would affect and impact 3 employees immediately. But I also told them that they need to be moving towards self-sufficiency. And that's not just literacy, that's all nonprofits. That should be the goal of all nonprofits, to be self-sufficient. Now, you don't turn a ship on a dime, I understand that, and you allow people the opportunity to try to pursue other avenues of funding. And I was very surprised, not very surprised, but I was very pleasantly surprised, to put it that way, that the board is moving in a different direction. They know that they've got to find funding, and the county and or city cannot be their main funding source in the future. But that does take some time. They're exploring community-based organization status, which will move them in that direction. And I was glad to hear that. I also suggested to them that some of their folks that they are training and that are coming from specific industries, that perhaps they need to approach those industries to help seek funding from them to help for their employees. It seemed reasonable to me. And again, you know, I'm not just talking about Literacy Connections. All nonprofits need to be moving in this direction. If nonprofits can show that they are saving tax dollars for the taxpayer, when we sit down in budget meetings, we will certainly be considering that. But if there's not a good faith effort to try to go that direction, then we will consider that as well. But having said all that, I am going to support this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pate. Any other?
I was talking to the attorney, and if we recall, and going back, it was $27,000, I think just under $27,500. So I know we kind of round off, and I think even in media it said the 27, but it's actually, I think the balance would be just under $13,500 if we were going to fund that total. So if we want to do that, it would be $13,500, and we would. I'm just bringing that up because I think it was just under the $500.
I can certainly ask Mr. Mayo if he'd like to frame his motion is that we go to 13.5 to make sure that is cleared up. Mr. Mayo?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to amend that motion to 13.5 because you're right. I remember, Mr. Smith, we were dealing with round numbers,
Okay.
and so yes, I make a
just adjustment.
Yeah.
And that includes the budget amendment from, and I talked to the finance officer this weekend to include a transfer from reserves or fund balance to cover the amendment.
Mr. Aycock?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I don't want anyone to think that I'm against helping anyone. But when we worked on the budget, we basically cut every department in the county. We had said that we were going to lower the tax rate in Wayne County, and we did. Very proud of the board for that. But anytime you lower a tax rate, you have to cut some spending. And I certainly don't want anyone to think that I'm not in favor of this, because I'm going to vote for it. But I just want everyone to keep in mind, the only way that we can keep lowering tax rates is you've got to stop some spending. I'm not just picking on this nonprofit, but all the department in the county. Don't everybody start standing in line and come back and want budget amendments now just because we approved this one. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daugherty.
Well, sometimes I feel like I just keep wanting to get a bloody nose, but I'm going to tackle right into this. Mr. Park, as you recall, I had asked, and I think it's been pretty publicly reported, that I had asked that Literacy Connections, the board of Literacy Connections, explore the possibility of implementing some fees. And I have heard from Ms. Yates, as well as read in the newspaper, that they are unable to do that. Have you done any research in regards to their organization documentation that would prevent them from implementing any type of fees?
I asked Ms. Yates to send me a copy of their charter and bylaws, and to send me the information concerning the particular grant that she was discussing. She sent me all of that. The guidelines that she sent me were for last year's grant, with a note that said we will ultimately send you the guidelines for this year's grant. I have not seen those, but there was an expectation there would be no particular change. In reviewing all those documents, I saw no reason at all that there could not be some kind of fee or sliding scale if their board decided that's what they wanted to do.
Thank you. Maybe that clears it up a little bit. The problem I have here is that we were faced with budgets in each of these departments, and we all explored them and actually cut some of the funding for some nonprofits in this budget. However, in this particular case, with Literacy Connections, we increased the funding for Literacy Connections. And as I recall, that was $10,000 increase over last year's funding. So the question here was not a matter of whether or not we were to increase it, it was how much of an increase. Their request was, as I recall, 37. We increased it by $10,000. And then right after we passed the budget, just a short time after then, the 27.5, I believe, was brought back as a budget amendment. I just, again, want to put everything in perspective here. The other issues that I have had is I have tried to find out who is being served by Literacy Connections. Literacy Connections is not a department of county government. It is a separate nonprofit organization controlled by its own board. It is not controlled by Wayne County. That organization comes before the county taxpayers, the county commissioners, and asks that a contribution of tax dollars be given to Literacy Connections for them to allocate as they see fit, not as the county manager or the county commissioners, but as that board sees fit. They decided to go after a grant. If in fact that grant was imperative that they get that grant, then they should have found resources to fund that grant. Instead, we find that the board simply asked the county taxpayers to increase that funding. Now, Mr. Aycock's point is well taken here. Here, county government has the authority to implement, using their taxing authorities, to tax citizens, bring those dollars in, and decide who gets those dollars. And I just find that it's, I think there is a problem here where we are taxing our citizens, bringing those dollars in, and then handing it out to certain nonprofits. I fundamentally think that is the wrong role of government. I think Literacy Connections should be self-sustaining. I think that should be their goal. We started with a funding, and I remind everyone, 4 or 5 years ago, that funding level was less than $6,000. In that period of time, it has now escalated. When you take the in-kind and direct, you're speaking of well over $130,000. How far do we go of taxing citizens and then taking those dollars and giving those to nonprofits? Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cromartie?
without having the opportunity to read every grant that every nonprofit organization has ever made, I just would like to take a broad brush and say that most nonprofits are set up with the effort of helping folk who need help. The agencies who support nonprofits with grants have them to follow a very strict process of applying and qualifying. I can only reach back and remind us of the day that the group came down, and an elderly gentleman who came down with them, and he said that one of the reasons that he was so thankful for this organization was he could now read his Sunday school book. Pastor, just reference you since you're here. I think that was very important. They're out there teaching folk how to be literate, how to read. Reading is so basic. A lady was at my house last night, and we were talking about reading. Sometimes at night, I'll take my smartphone out, and I'll just say a word into it, and all of a sudden the subject will come up, and I'll lay there reading it. What a pleasure. If I would have had the misfortune of not having parents that got me in public school and provided me an education, I might be one of those people who could not read. I want us to be very cautious when we draw the line on who we help based upon some literal interpretation of who we can and cannot help. Because then I would ask us to go back and look at every entity that we have funded, or especially since I've been sitting on this board with you all, and might have to call into question every entity that we have funded and therefore dissect everything that they've done. Just keep that in mind as we move forward, funding certain groups and then deciding that if you can't do this or can't do that, we might not be able to assist you. And I'm not saying that we should take tax dollars and throw them at the wind, but we are talking about helping citizens. And something as basic as reading. I rise in support of this, and I wish we would take care of this and move on, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cromartie. Any other comments, questions? Politics 101 is that when you got the votes, you keep your mouth shut. I can't do that right now. I know we got the votes, but I got to say something on this one. I sat through all the meetings with Mr. Smith. Mr. Daugherty was with me when we sat in on most of all of the requests that were coming for the year 13-14. And the comment was made in those meetings, in particular along these funding arms or funding methodology of looking at these nonprofits and how to fund them, how they were getting funded, who was supporting, who was sustaining. And comment was made that, we're going to cut spending. We're going to cut the fluff. And we did. Almost $1,850,000, and we lowered the tax rate down to 66 cents per 100, which is 2003 rate. So we're pre-recession. We got it back to the rate it was in 2003. So we did our job. And then this commission board said that anything that comes before this board that has any interest that's going to affect the people of this county, we're going to put it on TV, we're going to put it on radio, and we're going to have work sessions. And I called for a work session on literacy when Ms. Yates came to me and said, we've got an issue with grants, and we need some more funding. That's exactly what was indicated to her during these sessions before we approved the budget. She did exactly what was asked of her. She came and asked, and of course, I said, let's have a work session. And of course, I was beat up a little bit by why we had a work session, but that's just what we're going to do. We're going to be transparent, we're going to open it up, and thank goodness we had a work session. Because look at all the people, look at everybody. Literacy is literally on the tongue of everybody now, just about in Wayne County. They're talking about it, and that's good. Ms. Yates, the most powerful point she made is that she said this is an investment. It's a little different than nonprofit. It's an investment in the people of this county. Commissioner sat down with me this morning and said, isn't it a shame of all the drugs that are going on in Wayne County, and the sheriff has to go out there and it's just sad, is what the commissioner said. If we can take people and get them to read, then we can protect. One of the commissioners said that the role of government, what is the role of government? Well, the first role of government is that we protect the people that are in our county. That we make sure that they're protected and they have a quality of life worth living in Wayne County. So the tax rates, tax properties, the properties can be raised and not deflated, but and not inflated, but they certainly call for a good we eat, drink, and sleep property rates, property tax rates, and sales tax receipts. But going all into the quality of life of people who have to read, that's important. Because if they can read a medicine bottle, they don't take the wrong medicine, or they take a medicine that can get a cure. People have to be able to read. And if this is an arm to help the quality of life of people in this county, then we need to invest today. I can look at other nonprofits. There's one particular nonprofit that has over 500 members. And they sustain that nonprofit. They also have revenue in their bank account in excess of $350,000, $400,000 in their fund balance. We gave to them. We gave to them. But here, I can't see where this is an issue as far as the role of government. And I know what some are going to say and throw them under the bus for it. But this is reaching across the aisle. This is looking at the total people, all the people, kids that can't even speak for themselves. This is for their parents that are able to read, learn to read, and teach them to read. And we have great educators in Wayne County. It's a great place. We have private schools, faith-based schools, public schools, charter schools. We got every part of schooling there is in Wayne County. This is just another part of it. We're teaching. Thank you. Any other discussion or comments? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? That's 6 for and 1 against. Thank you. New business, Wayne County Public Library policies. Mr. Smith?
Yes, ask Donna Phillips, she'd come forward, our library director, and go over these policies that the advisory board have taken a look at.
Thank you. Good morning. I have 4 policy revisions to bring before you today. These are have been properly vetted by the Library Advisory Board and are coming to you as a recommendation for approval from that board. I'll start with the most simplest, and that is just simply that we have revised our food and drink policy in the library, and other than in the the meeting room for conferences and that sort of thing. We do not allow food in the public areas of the library again. Would you like for me to do all four of them together?
Just everything together, if you'd
Okay,
like.
all right. And then the second one is our disruptive behavior policy, and there were 2 revisions made to this. We added the statement saying that food is no longer allowed in public areas of the library, and we also state that loitering on the library grounds is disruptive behavior and will not be tolerated. And then below the no loitering on the grounds, there's some detail there about what would take place should we find someone loitering on the grounds, what procedure we would follow to address that. The third one is a cell phone use policy, and this really is just changing the wording. In times past, we had designated areas that were spelled out in our policy as no phone zones and phone-friendly zones, and we've just broadened this statement so that we don't say where exactly it is in the library, but just that we have both no phone zones and phone-friendly zones. And then finally, the fourth policy change has to do with registration and circulation policies. And we are recommending a change to the fee for out-of-county cards from $5 to $15. We changed some of the language under institutional cards because we now are recommending a temporary card be issued to folks who are visiting in our community, such as college interns that are here temporarily in the summer. That's a card that expires after 3 months. The person would need to have identification to show us where they're residing in Wayne County during their temporary status, and would limit their the number of items they can check out to 5 items. We also made a change. Teenagers are eligible to register with a school ID for their own library card, teenagers between the ages of 13 and 17. And our policy change indicates that with proper identification, the school media coordinator or the school librarian could also sign for that for the teenager. Other changes are part of changes we had to make when the library became a member library with the NC Cardinal Consortium that we joined, linking us with other libraries in the state. Formerly, our library cards expired in 3 years, and now that is annually. So that's a change. And then formally in our policy, revenues that were collected for lost or damaged library materials went to Wayne County Public Library, and we made the change so that that goes to the County of Wayne. There was a reconsideration of library materials included in this policy statement, and that has been taken out because that is stated exactly as it is written in the library's materials selection policy. So that was redundant, and that's the only reason we took that out. And those are the recommendations from the Library Advisory Board.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Mr. Smith?
I appreciate the advisory board working on this. It's great having them, and I appreciate the board putting this group together. I do want to mention, as discussed in a staff meeting with Ms. Phillips, that there are fees within this these policies. I would ask, and I spoke with the county attorney and with the finance officer, that as we move into the budget process for 14-15, that we actually change this. If you adopt as of today, and I recommend is that you adopt as submitted, but in 14-15, we actually pull the fees out of this and place in the annual adopted schedule, and it will just say refer to adopted fee schedule. So I just want to make mention of that. We need to, and we'll keep track of that. It's just good for people to be able to go to one source, find out what all of our fees are.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
That's our recommendation.
The recommendation for the board then is what's the pleasure of the board? Mr. Bell, thank you. The motion's been made to approve the recommendation coming from Ms. Phillips, our library director, and her advisory board, and along with Mr. Smith, county manager. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your work. Yes. Before we get to budget amendments, we started about 12 minutes after 9 this morning, so it's about 12 minutes, 15 after 10. Our public comment section is 10 o'clock, so at this time, I'd like to go ahead and move to public comments. So if anyone is in the audience who wishes to speak, please come before the podium, state your name, address, and phone number. Thank you.
Bob Jackson, 109 Aurora Lane, Goldsboro, 736-8618.
Good morning.
Morning to each of you. I speak this morning on the subject that has already been discussed and voted on, and that's Literacy Connections. And it's not just Literacy Connections, as has been mentioned, it's all nonprofits. And how do we do it? How do we fund, if we do, the ones that really need our help? This started back in the year 2009 and 2010 and was funded, as has been mentioned, $5,700. In 2010-11, it was $40,000. 11-12, it was $56,050. And then they extended out in-kind contribution, which was $27,500 for a total of $83,550. In 12-13, it was $75,964, with the in-kind at $34,202.85 for a total of $110,166.85. In 13-14, it started out at $85,000, and since then you added $2,000, and the indicated in-kind is $35,000, which gets you to about $122,000 plus. So we can see the increase, which is pretty drastic over the last several years. Now, if you take the $85,000 and add the $2,000 to it, it has been indicated that they were serving 476 students. And if you divide that out, that's $182.77 per student. Now, they've said that there's approximately 9,511 non-readers in Wayne County. And let's assume for a moment that their goal is to reach all of these non-readers, because that should be their goal if that's what we're doing. And if you do that, then your total is $1,738,325 based on current contributions. Let's assume again that they can only reach half of those 9,511. Then your number would be $869,163. Do you think we really understand how many worthy nonprofits we have in Wayne County? I suspect it's more than what we might think. Most do a great job for the community and for the residents of Wayne County. I have a list of those that we already contribute to as a board, and it turns out to be 20. Could it be 25? Sure. Could it be 30? Could it be 40? If not, why not? I look at nonprofits as a personal thing. I pay tithes to my church. They have no way of reaching into my bank account to pull those funds out without my approval. And I believe that I should contribute to nonprofits if that's what I choose to do. And I do. Probably more than most. But I think it's a personal thing. I don't think that we should tax the people of Wayne County to make these contributions. Let's go back to the numbers for a minute. If you take the $87,000 and you add the 25 plus an estimate of $35,000 for the in-kind, and then you have a total of $147,000, and if you add maybe $12,000 for facilities that hasn't been included, you're up to $159,000. You divide by 476, you get $334.03 per student. You multiply that out by 9,511 students, you got $3,176,959. And let's assume again that you only get half of those.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say good morning to you.
Good morning.
My name is Jimmy Ford. My address is 111 Homestead Drive, Goldsboro, North Carolina. Telephone 919-734-4136. You know, every now and then I just love to stop in and see what's going on. But Mr. Chairman, I really applaud what you said a while ago about the literacy program. Appreciate that. A couple of things I'd like to say, that you consider the fathers of this county, and we are your citizens. And God knows you ought to do anything you can to help those in need. This literacy program needs those funds to help our citizens. They can learn how to read, learn how to fill out the application, and probably can get a job. So I say to you, do what you can. Sometimes you have to put your heart in it also. Do what you can to look out for the well-being of the citizens of Wayne County. And while I'm saying that, I'd just like to say this. A lot of our citizens are confused about this insurance that's going on this month. I'd like to ask you, as county commissioners, to do what you can for the citizen. Open up your doors one day and at a specific time, say, come here and let us help you with all those questions that you might have, because a lot of them are really confused. There's frustration, aggravation, nervousness going on. So this is a month to do it. Do what you can while you can for the citizens of Wayne County, and I think that they will highly appreciate you as being the fathers of this county, this great county that we call Wayne, and I think that the citizens will highly appreciate that effort. So those two things when I was sitting there was on my mind to say to you, and I hope you take to heart, and I'm glad that you decided to fund this literacy program. If you don't know what's going on, I say stop by there and see our citizen who wants to learn how to read. A lot of people are ashamed right now because they don't know how to read. And thank goodness that the doors that they can walk in to learn that. And so, I mean, some older people, been through life, never learned how to read. They have the opportunity to do that. So again, I'd say to you, do what you can, fathers, for the citizens of Wayne County, and I think it'd be highly appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Anyone else?
Tom Drew, P.O. Box 587, Goldsboro, 27533. Fortunately, we're blessed with Borden Parker, Chief Legal Counsel, present, so this public comment portion is a little bit more functional. As was the question of my questions to those present, in the court of public opinion, this now in session, one and all can reserve the right to plead the fifth. You concur, Mr. Parker?
Mr. Drew, no questions, just make comments or statements, sir.
The ability to present a question is
Thank you,
the
Mr.
question.
Drew.
And the question for the county manager, did he get the email reading the Daily Reflector dysfunctional or non-functional in securing oversight of education at ECU? Have you received that?
Mr. Drew, please make statements or comments. Please refrain from questioning, okay?
Right behind y'all is one beautiful picture of Radio City, and I'm not sure what that is. Reminds me of the land of my birth. Place, birth of radio, first radio station in America. Pittsburgh was known as City of Talk Radio before there was talk radio. Advancing communications in this nation, leading the way. It's now known as Cyberberg. Leading communications in other ways. To secure my communications to him is of concern. When the wall fell, when the Iron Curtain fell, there was a titanium wall that still exists and persists to this day. It's the language barrier. Fortunately, Pittsburgh is leading the way in translations. And I want to secure my communications to all these when the newspapers are censoring it, and you send it as an email so I can stand here and say anybody wants the full record of what this is all about. There's 70 pages sent to this board, care of the county
manager, to the Board of Education, care of the Chief Executive Public Information Officer, Ken Dirksen. He's getting delivery failure notifications, eating up my time, perplexity within. The following is censored in the student newspaper at ECU. The Car Post Report 669 Horse Trade-In. And as the state of education democracy is a threat to national and international security, as a citizen reporter for the Car Post, I will not trade democracy for all the tea in India and China. That will trade 5 pounds of American tea to any current foreign exchange student at ECU. For ECU chancellors who's a political science majors, dated, signed, and scanned, emailed answers to 5 questions about democracy. Have tea will deliver within 24 hours. Upon receipt of response, should the chancellor recognize those 5 questions as not relevant to his attention, his dated and signed, scanned email statement as such would be equitable in this offer. That report censored in the student newspaper, that report censored Daily Reflector, that's censored News Argus, Mount Olive Tribune, News Observer, on and on. Quality of education. Now we got a forum coming up at Lane Tree. I'm going to be on top of proactive before the fact. When the word forum and censorship is missing from the books that teach government civics in North Carolina, that's the most significant finding of fact. We got a problem of education in democracy. Over and up.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. Any others? If no other comments, the public comment section is over. We'll get back to the agenda and go into budget amendments. Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. You have attached in your agenda, beginning on page 13, I believe, we do have budget amendment, I'll hit these in categories. The first 2, budget amendment 129 and 136. For the health department, the first is the public health preparedness coordinator was budgeted in the health department. Craven County was going to pay Wayne County. Now Wayne County is going to pay Craven County, so you're reducing the revenue from Craven County, reducing the related expenditures, and increasing the professional service line item. So you see that on 129. So basically this is accounting. 136 is funds needed in the dental department to cover the cost of temporary dentists, dental assistants, and hygienists. Full-time dentist was not hired until October 14th, and this is $35,000. Any questions about those?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Daugherty?
I move approval of Budget Amendment 129 and 136.
Motion's on the floor to approve these 2 amendments. Any questions, comments on these budget amendments? I have one on the dental on 136, the extra help. We talked about a dentist some time ago, and in the budget process, we talked also about a mobile dental unit.
Yes.
Have we acquired that yet?
We've actually, it's in process of purchase. It's being sent to Ohio for, in fact, we just reviewed the contract with the health director, myself, finance officer, and the attorney and purchasing agent last week, I believe. And we're sending that for complete renovation, and that has been budgeted, and it will be returned to us in February, I believe, by the 1st of March, and would be in service by the spring. But we do have the dentist and everybody ready, and it will be equipped when it gets here.
Was that mobile unit in the budget?
Yes.
Appropriated?
Yes.
Going in back to the dentist and the amount of funds required for dentists and dental assistants and so forth, have we allocated funds to support the mobile unit with dentists or dental assistants?
Yes, it's included.
In the budget?
Yes, sir.
Is this part of that?
Some of it you had to get through the rest of the year, yes, sir. Because we have, by hiring temporary, you do pay premium to do that. So that's what's requiring that we, plus these other hygienists, but this is part of what it's going to take to get these programs in place through the rest of the year.
Through June 30? Okay. Any other discussions or questions? Mr. Mayo?
One question on the outfitting, but is that money that's already been appropriated?
Yes.
Was that part of the budget?
Yes.
Of the 250?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
In fact, we detailed that out and made sure we were covered. We were talking about the liabilities of transferring, who was going to move it, contracts, and if you recall, even we have the equipment at the landfill, the truck to move this mobile unit. It's a tractor trailer basically, and it's in the Elizabeth City area, and it's been seen. We've talked to them fully. We looked at compressors. I mean, we've looked this thing over thoroughly, and looking at how we inspect it, how we get it back, and so we're working that out with the company now. But everything's budgeted, and we feel comfortable. We reviewed the budget and contracts again last week. Feel very comfortable where we are.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you. That was unanimous.
All right. The next, you'll see through Sheriff's Office, you'll see 132, 133, 137. The first is record receipt of seized property of $13,084. The second of 133 to record receipt of controlled substance funds of $29.03. 137 is to record the receipt of a cannabis eradication suppression funds for the reimbursement of helicopter fuel of $5,601.38.
What's the pleasure of the board on these budget amendments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Cromartie.
I move that we accept and approve these budget amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Cromartie. Motion's on the floor that we accept these 3 budget amendments. Any discussion? Mr. Pate.
Is that where we went and helped that up, another county? Is that what we did?
We do.
Okay.
These, and there are some.
Happened?
Yeah, there's actually a grant program that we can tap into to help pay for those type things. And then part of that is do some assistance. And we do assist other counties and get reimbursed, but these kind of programs help reimburse us for those type issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? Thank you. It's unanimous.
Okay. Just number 138, this is to anticipate 4-H North Carolina State University competition funds to issue award payments to youth for the 4-H district project record books of $975.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayo.
Make a motion we approve.
Motion's on the floor that we approve this budget amendment. Any questions? Comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you. It's unanimous.
And the next 2 under social services, the first being to anticipate and appropriate funds from the Duke Energy Progress for benefit of Duke Progress Energy North Carolina low-income retail electric customers of $175,796. That would be, has to be expended by June 30th, 2016. So we're now in receipt of those funds, and then we'll begin those programs. 140 budget amendment is to anticipate and appropriate the crisis intervention funds of $456,311. So we are now getting some of these grants that had slowed down are beginning to come in, and we're now beginning to account for them.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pate.
I move that we adopt budget amendment 139 and 140.
Motion's on the floor that we adopt these budget amendments, 139 and 140. Any discussion or questions? I have one question, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
I know you probably want Debbie Jones here now, or maybe Mr. Barker could answer me. But the CIL for the crisis intervention funding, is this a part of what was anticipated at the beginning of the year in your budget or in Ms. Jones' budget, or is this more than what was anticipated?
What we are doing is, you'll see that we are actually increasing both sides. We did not include it because these are funds that would be board and allocated out to citizens. So we have not expended any funds in that area up to this point, but now we are actually increasing the revenue side and the expenditure side, which raises the total budget, you know, in total number of $456,311. But we have not expended any funds in advance to receive the grant. We will begin that now once you approve it.
The CIL fund is a fund that, here again, I know you probably want Ms. Jones here, but I sat on the DSS board for 4 years, and how it got started and then how we started receiving those funds. Those funds, when I started, was about $280,000. They went up to about $340,000. Now they're up here to $456,000. Would you mind just taking just a brief moment and explain the crisis intervention funds and how maybe they're used?
Most of it is for the energy, housing issues. They'll come in, I believe, Phyllis Smith? is it Phyllis Smith is over that program? Phyllis, I cannot remember, I apologize, but I just remember Phyllis because I've actually went over and taught with those folks a couple years ago in crisis intervention. A lot of it is energy, where they will go in. We had this program conducted somewhere else at one point in time. We brought it back, and I think we do a much more effective job in getting these dollars out and a quicker job out to individual families. So if someone's unable to meet a need of heating, those type things, then they come and they apply. They have to meet certain eligibility standards, and then we actually will make payment out to the electric companies and that type thing. We make direct payments.
But the way I understand it, we've not used any of these funds 13, 14.
Today, that's correct.
Up to date.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Any other comments, questions? It's a good program, by the way. I'm glad we could use it. If we don't, we'll send it back.
And I wanted to say this a moment
That
ago.
happened one year.
I am really glad to see that, you know, this went up. I mean, I was really surprised, but it obviously is a priority, and we got additional dollars. So.
Right. It is a need for those who are in destitute and need help. It's a good program. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, thank you. That's unanimous. That all? All the budget amendments?
Yes, sir.
Wayne County Comprehensive Land Use Plan, Mr. Smith?
Yes. Asked Connie Price, who come our planning director. He and I have met a couple times, and we wanted to look at some options for scope of work, possible timelines, and the actual RFQs or requests for qualifications, and give you some options on how we might move forward. I kind of changed my thought process after meeting with Mr. Price last week on dividing the scope of work up a little bit, and I think he's got an interesting take on it, so I wanted him to present that to you at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Price.
While Ms. Wilson's passing you out, a memo there is actually what I'm going to be talking to you just briefly about on the comprehensive plan update. And I wanted to take just a few minutes for the benefit of some of you newer ones on the board and let you know sort of what the comprehensive plan is and sort of how we got to where we are now. 2005, after many years of discussion, the planning board began the process of developing a comprehensive plan for the county. The plan looks at a variety of issues in the county with a broad brush. It does not focus on particular geographic areas. A consultant was hired at that time to assist the planning board and the staff in preparing the plan. The Board of Commissioners appointed a 15-member steering committee to work with the planners in developing policies and action statements. Work began in 2006 and was completed in summer of 2007. The plan was adopted by the Board of Commissioners in March of 2008. In August 2009 and in February 2010, revisions were made and the plan was readopted by the Board of Commissioners. The plan is divided into 12 sections, and you can see on the slide there, it shows all the 12 sections, and we sort of got it as a pie chart because all of them are in a sense equally important in this plan. Transportation, economic development, funding of county services, agricultural preservation and growth management, water and sewer, schools, housing and neighborhoods, public safety, downtown revitalization, parks and recreation, community appearance and image, intergovernmental cooperation. Each of the sections included policies and action statements. And the policies reflected the general consensus of both the steering committee and the commissioners at that time on what should be priorities in those areas for not just now, but looking at it 20 years into the future. And the action statements were recommended items that could be done short-term, sort of carry forward some of those policies with action statements, realizing they could be added as time marches on. The policies may stay the same, but the action statements may need to be changed. As you complete one, you add something else to the list. The plan also includes a growth strategy map, which divided the county into growth strategy areas. The areas are a result of current conditions, plan changes, and policies of the comprehensive plan. The areas include urban transition, community growth areas, rural enclaves, rural areas, and conservation areas. Due to the general nature of the plan and it being adopted after parts of the county have been developed, pockets of development occurs within each area that may conflict with the goals of a particular area. For example, urban development may be found in conservation areas, or farmland may be found in urban areas. Those are just the facts. We just have to deal with those and move on. If you look at the map and look at as on the county as a whole, you can see in the areas, the sort of the center of the area where Goldsboro is, and in the south where Mount Olive is, this area here, and then down here. It's a little bit hard to tell up on the screen, but those areas actually are colored in brown. That's what we call our urban areas here in the county. Urban areas provide for the continued development and redevelopment of both the city of Goldsboro and the town of Mount Olive, and its contiguous urbanized areas in an unincorporated Wayne County. Urban areas include lands that are currently urban in character and have a full range of urban services in place, or are well located for a timely, cost-effective provision of urban services. Urban areas should be the top priority for planning, programming, and providing public urban services, including generally centralized water and sewer, parks, schools, police, fire, rescue, garbage, stormwater, streets, sidewalks, so forth. Densities in this area should generally occur at 4 or more units per acre and may be much higher in some locations. Around the outer edge of the urban areas are several areas that we have colored in the map as orange. The northwest Goldsboro area, North Goldsboro, east of Goldsboro, along 70, east of around the Walnut Creek area, west of Goldsboro in the Rosewood and Fork Township area, south of Goldsboro going toward Marmac and Dudley, and then north of Mount Olive and east and west of Mount Olive. These urban transition areas include those parts of the plan area that are not currently urban in character, but that during the next 2 decades are likely to receive or reach a level of development requiring urban services. These areas may have some services already in place, including particularly centralized water and sewer. Other services, including stormwater management, are likely to be in place within the next 20 years. Urban transition should be a secondary area for planning, programming, and providing services. Those parts of the urban transition area have good soils and drainage, are not in the floodplain, have road capacity, have sewer nearby, should be generally adopted at 3 or more units per acre. Land constrained by poor soils and lack of topography resulting in flooding problems should generally be developed at lower densities. So when you look at broad areas, sometimes you're going to have both good and bad areas in the same areas. You have to look at it almost at a more neighborhood level sometimes than we do in these plans. Next are those areas that would show up, if you could, on these are a tan area or beige area we call the community growth area. Areas designated for small town development. Community growth areas provide for the development and redevelopment of smaller, usually freestanding communities in Wayne County. These areas represent both incorporated towns or maybe unincorporated areas that nonetheless have a range of services typically of a small town. Community growth areas have services provided through a combination of municipal, sanitary district, and county services. The use of the community and our county funds for planning, programming, and providing services in these areas should be left up to the consensus of people living in the area, working in conjunction with county decision makers, especially when county resources are involved. Community growth areas may be developed at a variety of development densities and land use types to meet the housing, everyday shopping, and employment needs of the area residents. And this would include Eureka, Fremont, Pikeville, Grantham, Seven Springs would be the community growth areas. The other areas that you see in color on the map, the yellow areas, and you can see those are in splotches throughout the county, are called rural enclaves. These are areas that are designated for rural residential development. Rural enclaves provide clusters of low-density residential development in a rural setting. On-site waste disposal is the norm for these areas. Well, rural enclaves generally do not have commercial development, residents typically travel outside the smaller residential areas for their services. So if you look at where they are on the map, they're generally just clusters of subdivisions throughout the county, and that's all that is there. There may not even be a community store in that area. The majority of the map you can see does not have a color on it. These are designated as rural areas. They are areas that are for rural development, agriculture, and open space. Rural areas provide for agriculture, forestry, and other allied services traditionally found in a rural city. Very low intensity residential development with on-site waste disposal may be appropriate in rural areas. Rural areas where site conditions are good. Premature conversion of rural areas to urban level development and the resulting loss of valuable farmland and open space is to be discouraged. Generally, public funds should not be used for planning, programming, and installing urban services in these areas that would promote more intensive development. While development densities as high as 2 units per acre may be permitted in these areas, much lower densities and larger lots are preferred. Lastly, we have the conservation areas. And those are the areas that are in green on the map that you see that follow the floodplains of the Neuse River, the Little River, and the minor creeks and swamps throughout the county. These are areas that provide for long-term management and protection of significant, limited, or irreplaceable natural areas, such as the 100-year floodplain, riparian buffers, critical wildlife habitat, public parks, scenic sites, land trust areas. Conservation of the natural and cultural, recreational, and scenic, or ecologically productive areas, values of these areas, is preferred over development. If development is permitted, it should be done in a limited manner characterized by careful planning and cautious attention to protection of environmental features. Urban services should not be provided in these areas as a catalyst that would stimulate development. And all these are in the current plan. Now, after looking at this and looking at some of the discussions the board has had over the past few months about where we are, and the plan obviously was developed in 2005, and where we are now, maybe where we need to move over the next few years because of the advancement of US 70 in particular and I-795. The plan that is adopted by the county now did not foresee these projects moving along this quickly. It was just said that, in fact, what it says in the plan is that the county should continue to try to get the roads done. Well, apparently we've been very successful in that. The roads are under construction. It has several policies that expand on the county's goals of concentrating development in urban or urban transition areas. The policies do not focus on development at particular highway interchanges. Although the interchanges may have similar characteristics, some are more prone to urban development than others. Some are limited by handicaps that will be difficult to overcome. The need exists for a corridor plan that can focus on areas along major highways. The plan would look at the needed road and utility improvements by establishing desired density around the interchange. It would look at whose jurisdiction these areas are in, whether it's the county, whether it's the city, whether it's the town of Mount Olive or the town of Fremont. And also who is the provider of utilities in those areas, who is likely to be the provider of utilities in those areas, and anticipate what it's going to cost to get improved services to those areas. The planning department would like to begin the process of preparing a corridor plan. I hired a consultant that can help in developing the plan. RFP would allow the county staff to advertise and interview firms that would have an interest in doing the work. Although the corridor plan will obtain the short-term goal of guiding development along the major highways, it will not look at the entire county. Based on time and population shifts, a need exists for an update to the current comprehensive plan. The one that we're using used population information from 2000. We've since had a new census come out in 2010, and it showed population shifts throughout the county. It also showed an increase in certain segments of population concentrated in certain parts of the county. That needs to be looked at, and how that's affecting particularly our rural areas, because a lot of where the growth has occurred in population throughout the county has been in those areas you see on this map is designated as rural. How is that affecting the surrounding agricultural areas? All that needs to be looked at. Based on time and population, again, The Board of Commissioners should include funds in the 2014-15 budget to begin the process to update the comprehensive plan. There's currently money in this year's budget that you set aside for updating the plan. And after talking with Mr. Smith and some of the boards, it seems that maybe for the short-term goal of looking at these major highways, looking at infrastructure, looking at the need to make improvements around interchanges, the short-term goal of the corridor plan would achieve that mission. We've got as mentioned earlier in the meeting, we've got a highway that's going to be open in 2015. That's going to take a lot of traffic off the current 70. It's going to move it out a couple of miles in some cases. We need to be moving now on looking at development needs around those interchanges. Everything's not going to be developed at one time, but something's going to be developed. And so we need to be prepared, get ahead of the curve on this by looking at these interchanges, look at what our problems are there. All of you are aware of what some of the problems are. You can see on the map to your left, my right over there on the wall, with sanitary districts, we've got 7 or 8 of those throughout the county, and plus what the municipalities are providing in utility connections. We just need to be on the same page. And I think the corridor plan would be the best short-term solution for that. It would allow us to get something in place, hopefully by the spring, that can be then used as a tool during your budget process for next year if you need to set aside funds for utility improvements. The comprehensive plan is a project that can be started by setting aside money in next year's budget, and we can look at the whole county then. We can look at agriculture, we can look at schools, we can look at the towns and downtown revitalization, intergovernmental cooperation, all those factors that you saw there on the first slide. All those need to be looked at on a continuing basis, but I think this would be the best route for the county and for your resources.
Thank you, Mr. Price. It's a good presentation. Any questions or comments from Mr. Price?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Daugherty.
Assuming we move forward with the plan in regards to asking for proposals and so RFPs.
I don't know. One of the other.
And hiring a consultant. RFQs,
yes.
Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
But in the corridor plan, if we were to implement that, how long would that take to complete? What would your estimate be?
We're hoping that we could get moved in and we could have the plan completed in the spring as you're doing your budget. Mm-hmm. That's our goal. By doing it this way, a comprehensive plan might take a year. That's not going to help you next spring. But if we get the corridor plan done in 90 or 120 days, you'll have a tool that you'll have available when you're working on your budget next spring and deciding, well, do we need to set aside money for this particular areas?
And am I understanding you that we did, in fact, set aside dollars for this plan?
Yes.
In this year's budget?
That's correct, yes.
And when are you planning on issuing your RFQ?
When you tell us we can do it.
Okay.
We're waiting
If
for
you were
the
to vote today to allow us to proceed on, I'd like to have something, maybe come back at your December meeting where we'd have a recommendation to hire someone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, could and I understand what the director's saying, we really need to expedite this. I would really like to ask if the, I don't know how we would do this, Borden, but with Mr. Price, myself, I think we generally know the scope of work. We can put this together pretty quickly. I would hope we wouldn't wait till December to get this out. Once we get the request out, we can always go back and add scope. We can do those. We need to get this out because you heard 120 days. If we up to December, then it's going to be January. We're going to really be pushing the envelope of budget, and you're going to be into May, June. We need to. Okay. I would. That's the only thing I would alter is to give us the three of us the ability to review it, work with Noel on RFQ, get it out. I'd like to get it out next week.
All right. Any other comments?
I could say what Mr. Smith would say. We may want to have a representative from the Board of Commissioners and
yes.
maybe the chairman of the planning board to help review some of those proposals.
I agree. Absolutely. I would love to be able to do
Who is the
that.
chairman of the planning board now?
Mike Aycock.
Was he reelected as
yes.
his term? Okay, good. That's a good man.
I'd like to do that. And I can just call a meeting when we need to do a review very quickly.
Okay, make me a part of that, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the commissioners? No, but I do have a comment. It's, and you can have a seat if you like. I do have a comment And of course, it's up to the board to decide what they want to do. But I'd like to make a quick briefing that it is refreshing to me. I was chairing that committee back in 04, 03, 04 sometimes, but when we started putting that together, along with the ACUS study at the time for Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. But it's refreshing to me to hear commissioners this morning talk about infrastructure, going to these interchanges and wanting to expedite this to get it done as quickly as we can because of, yes, there's about 8,500 cars projected by DOT that will be running north and not on the current 70. It's about 32 to 37,000 cars a day, and they're looking at about an 83 to 8,500 car difference there moving to the north. But today, it's interesting that you talked about the governance and protecting agriculture and protecting the environment, but in the same time, Mr. Price, you mentioned the governance in the municipalities, and you mentioned the sanitary districts. It's interesting today that today's election day in the sanitary districts, there are those who are running for these offices. And it was brought up a couple of weeks ago, there were nearly 10,000 people that cannot vote today. They're serviced by those districts, but they can't vote today. Those districts are very vital to economic growth. I had lunch with Secretary Decker last week, and she told me, quote, rural economic growth starts in the community. And if we're trying to grow our county and do this and looking at the rural areas and looking at the urban transitional areas and identifying these places, we're going to have to deal with the governance of the sanitary districts. The sanitary districts were a great thing put together about 20, 25 years ago. My wife's father, Calvert Perkins, and a couple of others, Woodrow Croakley and others, they were deceased now, but they were the leaders of putting these sanitary districts, particularly in Fort, together in my district. But as we look at the governance, how is the governance going to get on the same page with what we're doing because of fees, because of impact fees, tap-on fees, and what is going to, are they going to stifle the growth with their fees and impact fees? Or are they going to be part of our plan? To make it clear right now is that I don't think, personally, I as a commissioner, I'm not trying to take over the sanitary districts. This is completely different than what the sanitary district issue was here 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was getting people to vote in their districts that are being served by those districts. But now we're looking at economic growth for Wayne County and to get on the same page. And I'm really excited about having a meeting, Mr. Price, that we talked about. I think the motion was made, Mr. Daugherty, is that we're going to meet with the sanitary districts within the next 90 days. That'd be right on cue. Get the sanitary district board members, their chairmans, get them in a work session with the commissioners and tell us exactly how their fees are laid out and what their plans are, and seeing how we can be on the same page as we move forward. Is there any particular comments that the commissioners want to make or on any issue? And we'll certainly look at this comprehensive land use plan and how we want to move forward with it.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daugherty.
Do we need a motion? Is this an action item? Do we need a motion to
You can.
authorize them to go ahead and proceed?
Yes, sir, you
See
can.
with the RFQs or an RFP.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the county planner to proceed on and issuing an RFQ to proceed on with this plan.
Okay, very good. Motion's on the floor that we give the authority for the county manager, Mr. Price, and your staff to move forward.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Thank you. That was unanimous.
We will ask those that we've talked about earlier for a real quick turnaround on a draft. That way we can get it out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you. All right, Board of Commissioner comments. Mr. Bell?
We did have, we've got Daniel Wiggins here. Want to give a
Oh,
real quick.
thank you.
And
sorry,
he's
Daniel.
waited patiently
I apologize.
to an important issue about the
Yeah.
flash food
We have an
drive.
announcement this morning.
That's
Good.
right.
I'm
And want
sorry.
to make sure we get that on TV.
Come on up front.
Thanks for waiting.
No problem.
Daniel, I'm sorry.
Real quick.
You were supposed to go on at 10, it's 11, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've been asked by the Activities Committee to come and speak to you a little bit about our flash food drive that we have going on. We've learned that the food pantries around the county, that they're running kind of bare. So we started last Wednesday. We're going to end this Thursday for a quick food drive to help get these pantries restocked. And then, of course, around Christmas time, our Christmas luncheon, we'll have another one. And I was trying to look for some words to help inspire people to just give a ton of food, but I came across a story that kind of hit home to me. And it's about the passage or rite of passage of the Cherokee Indian boy. What it is that this Cherokee Indian boy, he has to go and sit on a stump in the middle of the forest. The conditions of this are he has to be blindfolded, he can't scream for help, and he has to be by himself. So during the night, he has to go. He sits on this stump. He hears noises that scare him. He feels things that brush across his leg, and he can't speak. He can't move. The sun finally rises, and as he takes off his blindfold, his father is sitting there beside him, watching over him patiently, making sure nothing comes to harm him. And it made me think that some of these people, they're scared. They don't know when their next meal is going to be. So if we can take care of our needy and our homeless in the county, then I'm pretty sure they would be very appreciative of that. And we would ask for your help into helping give food, the public as well. If they have food that they want to give, they can contact me or they can go straight to the Salvation Army. And that's who we're teaming with. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Daugherty. I think we need to take some action on this. I propose and challenge my fellow commissioners here to put some dollars in the pot. I'm going to put 20 in today. How about the rest of you helping me out, and we'll give it to our county manager to pass it over to them.
That'd be great. They can go and get the food and take it over. That'd be great.
You need canned
I'll match
food?
it if y'all do it.
Canned food, pasta, stuff like that.
I'll bring you $20 in food. How about that? You'll have it tomorrow. Okay, cans and pastas. That's the way I'll give you my $20.
I will meet his challenge, and I'll do the same thing. And I think I know where your office is.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. They are, I think our church may be, our church is getting together a lot of canned foods for this cause. This is the time of the year to give and give back. So I appreciate that example that you gave. That should soften our hearts to say this is the time of Thanksgiving for what we have. So I agree with that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Okay, we'll start now with Mr. Cromartie.
Where's your address again?
At Office of Emergency Services.
If you'll get it here,
All
if
right.
somebody wants it
All right.
here,
That's
or
fine.
if you'll
That's
call
fine.
our office, or what's the 1415?
1416.
For 731-1416, or if you call our office at 731-1435, we'll tell you where to drop it off, or whatever you need to do. We will take any donations. And thank you.
Okay, Commissioner comments, and we'll do that before we go into closed session. Mr. Cromartie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just sometimes instinctively think you're calling on my good friend, Mr. Bell. I have just two short comments to make. First, I want to thank the county commissioners for sending forth the resolution about the hospital that involves also Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I think it's the right thing to do, what we did this morning. But for the public consumption, I would just like to share a short discussion that I had with two ladies at a 7-Eleven last week. And it's two well-respected folk that I have worked with and come in contact with in the Wayne County community over the last 20 years or so. And I asked them what did they think about the hospital situation and Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And it was so interesting. They had totally opposite points of view. On the one hand, one of the ladies who probably more favor the hospital said they have to have revenues to be able to build more buildings and offer more services and those kinds of things, and attract doctors and pay salaries and be competitive with the region. But on the other hand, the other lady, who I would not characterize as supporting Blue Cross Blue Shield as much, as she was concerned of the escalating prices and an opportunity for someone, as the newspaper has reported, and I don't think they are misquoting, that someone said that people could just arbitrarily raise prices. And that's what the folk are out there reading. I want to congratulate Mr. Ford for coming down and asking that anything that we could do to enlighten folk about the whole healthcare issues, to involve not just any one phase of healthcare, but all of healthcare and all that we are coming in contact with. But I just wanted to bring that out this morning as two opposite points of view. One that did have some reservations about the ability for anyone to raise fees. Now, I don't have this calculated up, but when I hear that one group raised fees by 121%, and the other one said, well, we just raised it by 67%, just counting it, I said, that's a big, over 200% increase. I mean, for a meager person like me who just adding on a small $2 calculator, that still amounts to a lot of money. So I do want to hear of some good negotiations, but I just wanted to let you know that the public has a real concern about what they are hearing, and maybe there's still more understanding that needs to take place. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cromartie. Mr. Pate?
Thanks, Chairman. I guess I'm the events announcer today. I forgot to announce this earlier, and I promised Selena Bennett that I would do this. And all of you got this. I got an email about the choice bus, and it's going to be at Goldsboro High School Friday the 8th from 8:15 to 3:20. It's kind of hard for me to cover this without kind of reading it. But they're going to have a 25-minute interactive presentation designed to show the relevancy of education, career choices, and lifetime earning potential. A full-scale replica of a prison cell will be on the bus. And to let the kids know that, the importance of education, choosing their friends, avoiding gangs, being respectful, career interests, and here are the facts. Every 26 seconds, a child drops out of school. 8 out of 10 dropouts end up in prison. The U.S. spends $40 billion a year on prisoner incarceration. More than 80% of prison inmates are illiterate. 7,000 students drop out of every school, more than 1.2 million each year. College graduates earn $1 million more over their lifetime than high school dropouts. She invited all those commissioners to drop by. I encourage you to do that. Might keep us all out of prison. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pate. Mr. Aycock?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just got a couple of things. Just want to remind everyone, Thursday in Fremont, the grand opening of Congressman George Holding's office. That's Thursday at 2 o'clock. And also, Wayne County lost an icon yesterday. Mr. Mike Pierce, the owner of Nahunta Pork Center, did so much for this county that he never expected any credit for, but he contributed a lot to the communities in Wayne County, and he helped put Wayne County on the map. You see there's big yellow signs everywhere you go, and I just want to keep his family in our thoughts, and they still will have a very successful business, but they've lost their pillar. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aycock. Mr. Mayo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with Commissioner Aycock. He and I grew up in that community with the Pierces. I remember, I was telling someone earlier this morning, I remember when Mac bought his first 6 pigs when I was a kid. My dad and I were watching him buy his first 6 pigs, and he said, I'm gonna start a pork center. And everybody said, you're crazy. Nobody's going to eat pork, and look what God did. So I confer, I agree with Mr. Aycock on his comments. One of the things, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to mention that on the 29th of October was a Crime Stoppers fundraiser reverse drawing, and it was held at the Shriners Hall in Dudley. And I just want to take just a second to say a comment about how important Wayne County Crime Stoppers is just for the public. In November of 1982, the Goldsboro Wayne County Crime Stoppers was started. And since that time, this program has resulted in the recovery of almost $2 million in stolen property and seizure of nearly $8 million in illegal narcotics, for a combined total of $8 million. Crime Stoppers has assisted law enforcement in solving 62 murders and apprehending more than 1,200 fugitives from justice. Crime Stoppers callers have assisted in clearing more than 7,500 cases and the arrest of more than 5,600 criminals. The conviction rate for suspects who are apprehended with Crime Stoppers information is approximately, get this, 99%. So we need to, I want to encourage the businesses, individuals here in Wayne County to donate to Crime Stoppers. It's keeping our communities, our county much safer because they do. And by the way, they are not funded by anyone except private donations from individuals and professionals, merchants, and civic and social groups. Mr. Chairman, the last item I want to bring up, and it's been a lot said about it this morning, but I want to address the nonprofits in our county for just a minute, and specifically one that was mentioned this morning, the Literacy Connections. I was part of the budget process this year on sitting in on a lot of the presentations from nonprofits. And what I saw documentation time after time after time from nonprofits that they can do it cheaper than we can as a government. A lot of these organizations have been formed because the county just can't do it as cheap, and or the county doesn't have the capacity to handle the numbers that are involved. There's been some numbers thrown around this morning, like $182.77, or $1,738,000, or $3,176,000. These figures, if we were to take these nonprofits, especially literacy, I want to use it as an example, and pull it back and make it part of our county government and put it in our budget every year, that $1,738,000 would probably triple. It would triple. But it's okay if we do that. But we are not supposed to fund a nonprofit. What we're doing in the long run, in most cases, I'm not saying all, but this one in particular, we are saving, Literacy Connection is saving the taxpayers money. There's a lot of churches, including my own church, that are heavily involved in literacy. The bottom line is that no matter what your race, creed, or color is, you deserve an opportunity to learn how to read. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Mr. Daugherty.
No comment.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Mr. Bell?
I think enough's been said on Literacy Connections today.
Surprised me, Mr. Daugherty. There you surprised me. But anyway, I think what we need to do is take a little time out, and all of us need to get involved in the communities. I worked in the communities all my life. I know what's out there. And there's a lot of hurting people out there. See, the problem that some of us have, we've had a new bicycle all our lives, and we don't know what it is to have to go and beat around the bush and come up with little things to make ends meet. So we ought to go out there and take a look before we just crucify those people that are in need. And this is not to belittle anybody, because everybody have their own opinion about things, but I have done community work all my life. I worked in the public section doing probation and parole, and I've seen all this stuff. That was my profession, to deal with those kind of people. So you ought to take a look. And I can appreciate what Mr. Ford said and what Chairman Steve King said a while ago. You know, we have people that we're going to have to maybe not take care of them, but at least right now as I speak, we are in 170 some countries, the United States. We have a military presence in that many countries. That costs money, but we don't complain about that too much. We don't complain about all the millions and billions that we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan for the past 10, 12 years. So we ought to take a different look at this thing, and maybe we even need to have a work session on it one day and and take a look. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I'll finish up with comments real quickly, and I know we're on a time frame here, but the visions that was passed out by our by Connie Price, our county planner, this morning. The visions of transportation, which Mr. Daugherty is so involved in as being our chairman of transportation, economic development, which we have a great staff that the Wayne County Development Alliance and Joanna Helms and her staff are working diligently in economic development to bring jobs. And we have Mr. Mayo and we have Mr. Aycock, who serves on that board. County services. The county services mandates state and federal funds be in this county, and there's a great percentage of that. But as we saw through the sequestration, and we saw when the government shut down, which will probably happen again, but we're prepared for it. But we saw how it affects. We have Mr. Pate and Mr. Daugherty. Mr. Pate serves as DSS chair. Mr. Daugherty, Wayne Health Board with the hospital, and we saw what's happened with that. And of course, he serves on the health department also, and we saw what we did today in the dental area. Ag preservation, growth management. That is key. We're looking at we just laid out $2 million for an ag center to have the resources for our agriculture, agribusiness, and we have just laid out $2 million to show the state government that we mean business and the federal government that we mean business here in Wayne County. Agriculture, protecting agriculture, agribusiness. Mr. Pate serves on that, and I at times try to assist him. I've not been a very good steward of that lately with these meetings. Schools, you can see what we've done with schools. We're trying to partner. I'm trying to be a part of that. Housing, we're looking at housing in residential areas. You know, we have the zoning areas where we have RA 15,000 square feet per house or per lot. We have 20,000 square foot. We have 30,000 square foot. We have areas that we try to incorporate a value that will increase property values and protect property values. We did that with agricultural voluntary ag districts. The revitalization of downtown, trying to partner and do what we can to help these municipalities, the 7 that we met in September. The community appearance, trying to make sure there's good curb appeal coming into Wayne County. You see Air Force Base wings in some of these areas coming in. The intergovernmental cooperation. Here's where there's an issue. There's an issue here. There's a governance within this county that's not on the same page with the commissioners. And that's the sanitary districts. And they're offended because we speak in a way to try to improve the property values and create jobs and growth in these areas that are supposed and been designated by this commission to set up these sales and these growth areas in this county so we can increase the property values and we can increase the sales tax receipts, because that is part of what the schools program is. They want a 1/4 cent sales tax increase, and that's what they did with their figures. How can we give them a 1/4 cent sales tax and make that effective when in fact we're $3.5–4 million down where we were 5 years ago in sales tax receipts? So it doesn't matter if you add a quarter or half or a penny. If you don't have the retail sales, what good is a sales tax rate increase? What good is it? So you've got to have these areas that you can grow, you protect, and you have to have funds to do that. As we've just saw, the federal government and the state government doing what they do, you're going to see less mandates and you're going to see more mandates put on the county. And we have to protect those. So it's good that the governances of this county get on the same page to help us find jobs and to create property values that increase and don't depreciate, but appreciate. That's important. That is key to this county. We're trying to do it with transportation. We have 4,000 employees on Highway 70 right now, a quarter mile each side. We have 327 businesses on Highway 70 right now. DOT has seen where they're going to make it a little lax now and try to make those accessibility points more business friendly and treat it as a main street where they have the bypass going over in 15, which is going to have about an 8,000 car difference. Now, what do you do and on the main street? What do? You protect those businesses. You give them access. You become more business friendly. And we're doing that. The 70 Corridor Commission is doing that, recognizing that. Cambridge is doing that. So, as you know, my comments are growth. My comments are jobs. My comments are lining up with Secretary of Commerce Sharon Decker and Secretary Tony Tata, the Transportation Secretary, to be more business friendly, to be more friendly within, and this intergovernance, this intergovernmental corporation is vital to Wayne County. If these sanitary district boards don't get on board, they become a hindrance to our growth. You can't scare businesses off with high rates, high impact fees. You can't do that. Because when you do, you stifle growth, you stifle jobs. Public safety, I want to commend the sheriff and his staff for doing such a great job in what they're doing in protecting our county. As chairman and as county commissioners, with Mr. Bell all the way down to Mr. Camardi, we have so much here to be responsible for. And we, I think since January, have stepped out and we are taking an approach that is transparent and forthright to make sure that the citizens we represent see all and understand all, and we're doing the best we can so you can see it. We're doing the best we can so you can understand it. It's been a fast year. Thanksgiving is right around the corner and Christmas, and then we're right into 2014 and working on the budget again for 14-15. My thoughts are just I really appreciate the commissioners, all of the meetings they're going to. They are at the table, and I just really appreciate all the work this commission has done since we've taken this seat in January. It's been a rough ride because things are changing. But I think we're doing a good job, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you. That's my comments. Mr. Parker, we have a closed session. Can you tell us what the purpose of the closed session is, sir?
It's to consult with me to preserve attorney-client privilege.
Is there a motion on the floor to go into closed session?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Thank you. The closed session